Welcome, everyone. Welcome, parents. We'll begin in just a minute or two. Thanks for joining us tonight. All right, Michael, what do you think? Shall we begin?
Okay, welcome everyone to our last senior program. We're very happy to have you here. I know that a lot of the seniors are currently making decisions about their college choice for next year. And we decided to present a program entitled The Transition to College, because that's going to be the next step. So we're going to start with the end of this year and carry you all the way through the beginning of your freshman year of college. So some of the items that we hope to address tonight, first of all, let me tell you that we are delighted to have 3 members of the class of 2020 at the Meadows with us that are going to share their perspectives about their college experience as freshmen. And we're delighted to have them here, and we will introduce them in just a couple of minutes. But we're going to talk about finishing the year strong, both academically and socially and emotionally. We're going to talk about putting together a summer to-do list and logistics. The very important aspect of orientation and roommates. We'll talk about some financial items, including money matters, bills, and financial aid. Also healthcare and insurance. And we'll talk a little bit about course registration and course placement. And we'll talk about getting involved on campus from the very beginning and developing relationships, which I'm sure our alumni are going to address. And then some of the student and parent fears about the college experience and some resources that you may want to follow up on once the program's over. So I'll turn it over to Ms. Lustig for the introductions.
There we go. We are so pleased to welcome 3 of our spectacular seniors who graduated last year. I'm just going to start at the top of my screen here. El Riggio, who is a freshman, a first-year student at University of Puget Sound. Anissa Beckett, who is a first year at University of San Diego, and Claire Strimling, who is a freshman, first year at University of Michigan. And we wanted to just ask our alumni some questions about, especially related to making the college decision and the first year experience. And the transition, the differences between high school and college. So we're hoping that the 3 of you could each go through kind of your frame of mind. It's April, senior year for these students, and they're trying to make a decision about where to enroll. And many of them have choices to make. Some of them are wondering how to make that choices. They're confused as to what they should be considering. And some of them are also grappling with the disappointment of, what they thought they were expecting and what options are available to them. So perhaps you can tell us, what do you think they should be considering, how to make that decision as they think about, the next few weeks? And any of you can start. And kind of that frame of mind as you're thinking about college and the opportunities ahead of you.
Well, hi, everyone. For me, I definitely, I had a very one-track mind when I was first applying, and I had my top choice, and I was like, I'm going to get in there and it's going to be great, and that's where I'm going to go, and there's not going to be any other aspect to my decision. And, everything didn't work out the way that I had thought it was going to, and I didn't get into my first choice. And so then I was kind of in the same place. I had options, and I had to decide where I wanted to live, the kind of, social life I wanted to have, and the academics that I wanted to have. And when I was deciding between three schools that were all by the beach and all in California, and they all had my major and programs that I wanted. So it came down to a lot of like campus life and school size and what I thought was going to make me happy and where I was going to thrive the most. And coming from the Meadows, like we all know that we have small class sizes and really great relationships with our teachers and with the staff and everything. And I knew that that was something that was going to be really important to me and my success when I was going to college, because I thrive in small classrooms. I feel more comfortable like participating. And when I participate, I get more out of my education. And so USD became one of the front runners, because with a max class size of 35 students, and that includes like your intro classes that everyone has to take, I knew that I was going to be able to have the relationship with my peers and my teachers that kind of all help for my own success. I I think that also a lot of what's going to be important is you're living on campus, you're living with these people, and you want to make sure that you're going to be in an environment that's going to make like you happy. And so, like for my specific choice, Greek life isn't that important to me, and so it wasn't something that I wanted to have a big impact on my social life, positively or negatively. And USD also doesn't, not that they don't take it seriously, but it's not one of the larger organizations on campus. And so just to speak from like a social point of view, that was one of the bigger things that I knew I wasn't going to be suffering because I didn't want to be in a sorority. But yeah.
Thank you, Anissa.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate, oh, sorry, Claire. I just want to reiterate what Anissa said, just because at least the biggest thing for me when I was making the decision was trying to figure out where I felt I was going to be the happiest and where I felt I was going to be the most comfortable, since it is where you are going to be going for the next 4 years. So even if it's just like a city that you want to be in or an area, but for me, it was really just be able to see myself on the campus and be comfortable with it. And because a lot of schools are going to have the same programs that you want, so typically that's not really an issue when you're deciding on schools. At least for me, it was just finding a place where I felt that I would thrive the most.
Hi, everyone. So kind of going off of what Anissa and Elle already said, I also did not think I was be going to University of Michigan. I did not get into my top choice, and I kind of was lost after that. I didn't really know like where I was going to choose. I think one of the main aspects I was originally thinking of was like weather and size of the school. Those were two big things for me. And so Michigan actually like really scared me because it's cold and it's a huge school. But after being here this year, I think that really one of the biggest things to consider is campus life and student life, because that's really what like makes college, I think, is just the atmosphere you're in and how the other students are around you. So that's a big part of it, just like I guess what the atmosphere of the campus is like. But I also think that looking back, I was really like, I took like choosing the right place really seriously, but I think it really is like what you do at college and who you surround yourself with. So if you get involved in organizations, you can really make the most of resources on any college campus. I think that's what makes college special.
So along those lines, can you tell us a little bit about your first year experience so far, from both an academics perspective, if you are pursuing a specific major already, although in college you really don't have to declare until usually the end of your sophomore year, so you can really explore. Curious to know about, the academic rigor and the quality of the teaching, but also really important to know about your social life, what you're involved in, if you have plans for the summer, like how how you've already kind of integrated in your experience, because research does show that the more involved you are, at the very least, in one or two activities your freshman year, the more you're going to get out of your experience, the more you feel connected and feel like there's an enriching experience there. So could we go through and you just tell us a little bit about what you're doing and how that experience has been so far for you? Anissa, do you want to start?
Yeah. So I waited a really long time in high school to decide that being like involved in on-campus activities and groups were important. And I'm so glad that I took the initiative, like as soon as I got on campus at USD, to like find things that I was interested in. So even as a freshman, I'm a Turo ambassador, which I did at the Meadows. I am a campus tour guide, which also I did. And so just like these little small things, I'm going to be a student aid kind of person next semester as well for groups of freshmen coming to USD. And so just once again, which goes hand in hand with my school size, is that because it's so small, it's so easy to find things that you're interested in. We have like club fairs and things where you get information on everything, and you don't have to join anything, but just having it all there and like knowing exactly what your options are, you can do it. And it seems like scary at first, but I've been able to meet so many people, which especially this year, because everything was online, it was kind of hard to meet people and make these connections and create friendships. So I'm really glad that I was able to join all of the organizations. And another thing is also sports, like intramural sports and club sports. Literally just going and doing it for fun. And there are people who play on our soccer field. They literally play Frisbee every night because it's outside and we're allowed to have like groups of up to 50 now. So they just go and they play and they have a good time and they meet people. And it's just really good for not only making friendships, but also like networking in the future.
Thank you, Anissa. Elle?
Yeah, so I've been online this entire year, so I haven't really gotten a chance to do a lot of the things that you would expect to do while you're on campus. But regardless, I've still been able to join like quite a few clubs. Like I'm a part of FEPS, the Freedom Education Program through Puget Sound. And I do things like that. And that's really what I've been able to do, other than really just being able to connect through small groups through my classes and being able to get involved in that way, just through different extracurricular projects for my different classes, like going to webinars or seminars that other teachers are putting on, and being able to just connect with people that way is just what I've been able to do, even though I've been in Vegas the entire year.
Claire?
Yeah, so I have been able to kind of get involved professionally and socially. So first semester, I kind of wanted to focus like on professional clubs. So I joined a business fraternity, an investing club, and then like an advertising club, just to kind of meet new people, like make friends and learn more about business, because that's what I'm majoring in. And then this semester, I also joined a social sorority. So kind of, I think just getting involved has really made it a lot easier to make friends, just also because everything is online. So even though we're doing everything online, at least just having small groups on Zoom, I feel like I've kind of made a community, or multiple communities, I guess, through my different organizations. And I've definitely learned a lot about professional skills, and also made pretty good friends too. So it's been definitely really great getting involved.
Can you talk a little bit about the difference, just in terms of your sense of independence and maybe any surprises that you've encountered in college, things that you didn't think would be important, or things that really kind of took you by surprise, that have been impactful on you, and maybe also kind of the difference between high school and college in terms of your mentality and maturation?
I think that one of the biggest things was I realized that at home, I never had to grocery shop for myself. And so, like living in college, and I'm actually in second year housing just because of the way that the housing worked out and social distancing rules. And so I live on an on-campus apartment, but we have like a full kitchen and like an oven and everything and a fridge. And so because so many of the dining options are closed, my roommate and I have like taken to cooking. I found a new love for that, but cooking requires grocery shopping. And we were like, okay, so this is something we're gonna have to figure out, making shopping lists and stuff like that. And so that was definitely like, well, like when you're thinking about it at home, it doesn't seem like a big deal. Like, I don't know, I come home and my parents have already gone grocery shopping and it worked out, and then they make food and dinner's great. Like when I have to think about like, what do I want for the week? Like, what am I going to get? What am I going to make? Like, what is like my roommate and I and our dietary restrictions was like a pretty important aspect of it. And then also I had like my first experience where I had to kind of be an adult and do something by myself kind of yesterday, where I had to go to the emergency room because I'm allergic to nuts and I wasn't very smart and I ate a nut. And so I had to go do that. And I was like, okay, well, I'm 19, my parents aren't here, and I have to kind of realize that these are the information that I have to be able to give them and stuff like that. And I think that being in college has definitely made me a lot more comfortable with being responsible for myself and like knowing everything that I have to have and having the like ability to speak to adults and have them, you know, like respect them and have them respect me. And I'm honestly really glad that I had learned all of that this semester, so I was able to handle it, and in all other aspects too, which maybe weren't as dire, but still important.
Thank you, Anissa.
Yeah, the biggest difference for me really was, I feel like at Meadows specifically, everything felt like it went really fast and everything was very like focused in on like a few little things. And at least for me going to college, I really realized that it's important to slow down, and you have such an opportunity to be independent and take classes that you want and really take the reins and doing whatever you want to do. So for me, it was really just stepping outside of myself and realizing that, you know, I've put a lot of focus into this, but I can take time to do a certain extra class that I want to do simply because I'm interested in it, or really I don't have to worry so much about getting everything done in a certain amount of time, because there's endless amounts of time and there's endless amounts of opportunity for you to go out and really explore and find what you truly love to do. Just because in high school, I definitely thought I wanted to do one thing, and being in college and studying those certain classes, I've realized that maybe that's not what I want to do. So it really has just helped me realize that I can take time and slow down and really just find what I want to do and focus on that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what Ellen and Nisa said. I think college is very, very different from high school. And I think like one thing I realized is like when you're living alone, you know, there's ups and downs, and you really have to just be independent, and you kind of learn to grow from the downs, and, you know, I guess like celebrate the ups. There's always ups and downs in college. And I think especially with COVID, one really big difference I think is that in high school, you go from class to class and you're in a set schedule, but like in college, your classes aren't back to back and you're taking a lot fewer classes, but you have more like work, I guess, on your own. So just being proactive and like being on top of your work without like being in class, I think is one thing that I've learned. And just like kind of having the freedom to make your own schedule. So like maybe do a class and then like go get lunch with a friend and then do another class. So it's just a lot more freedom than high school, I think, also.
Thank you. Academically, can you tell us a little bit about, how the Meadows prepared you for the rigor of college and maybe course registration, how that process worked, what that first year experience is like from an academic standpoint as well, and maybe kind of a class that you're taking that you're excited about?
I definitely, for the longest time, my parents and alum and students always were like, the Meadows prepares you really, really well for college. And I was like, well, this is just school. Like, we're just doing school. How can this really be preparing me any different than any other high school? But when I actually got to campus, and I'm majoring in behavioral neuroscience on the pre-med track and minoring in political science. And so I'm taking I've taken a full course load, like both semesters. I'm taking 2 labs. And I realized that the biggest thing that the Meadows taught me was time management and knowing that like Elle and Claire were talking about how in high school your classes are back to back to back. That was a really good structure because your classes are back to back, so your homework is back to back. So I was playing sports at the Meadows, and I had to learn how to prioritize things, and that's all really carried over for me in college. Because not to say that my friends' high schools maybe weren't good, but what I find is really manageable for my friends is really not manageable at all. My friends here in college, like at UST, and so I definitely am really thankful that although sometimes it was tough, I learned like how to adapt and how to do it and how to handle it, for sure. But a class that I'm really excited to take, actually this semester, I'm taking sociology, and I didn't know a lot about what it was going into it. But like now that I'm taking it, I find it so interesting and like learning about different perspectives and different groups of people. So that's also something like obviously any college is going to have so many options of classes and electives and things that can fulfill all of your requirements for core or your major. And it's really, really cool to have classes of all kinds of interests that can also fulfill those credits.
Thank you, Anissa.
Yeah, I definitely agree with everything that Anissa said. Going into college, and especially I noticed it a lot in my English courses, we would take time to talk about how to cite a paper or how to structure a paper. And a lot of it felt very repetitive to me simply because we had gone over it so much at Meadows. So I definitely feel like, especially for my first year, I felt, if anything, a little over prepared for my classes, just given the rigor that was at Meadows and the strenuous activities that we were under. So I definitely agree. A lot of it is time management. And at Meadows, it helped set me up for just being able to get my work done on time. And I felt I was just like ahead and more capable in doing my homework, which made me feel a lot better when I was taking the classes. And as for a class I'm excited for, I'm taking a philosophy course next semester, which is about like the unity of the mind, because it's for my neuroscience minor. And so I'm excited in taking that.
Yeah, I agree. I think Meadows definitely prepared me very well academically. I think one of the biggest things is that even though I'm taking different classes and learning different content, Meadows like taught us how to think critically, which I think goes across all subjects, just like analyzing what I'm reading and like being able to ask questions about it and like understand it on a deeper level, I think is something that we really learned that was really helpful in college. And for a class that I think is really interesting, I'm taking a class called Environment right now. And it's basically like about sustainability and how businesses can become sustainable. And I think it's really cool because like no class is offered like that at Meadows, and I never really knew anything about sustainability. So it's definitely like gotten me really interested about the topic and definitely want to take more classes in that field. So
Thank you so much. So just to just be clear, Anissa, you said you have roommates, correct?
Yeah, I have one roommate.
One roommate. And then Claire, do you have any roommates or suite mates or anything like that?
I had a roommate first semester in the dorms, but they kicked us out of the dorms. So I'm actually on my own in a hotel right now.
Okay. COVID. So what have you arranged, and what's going to happen next year? Have the colleges communicated to you about what the plan is for next year? And also, Anissa, since you do have a roommate, I mean, one of the big questions that students and concerns is often like, am I going to get along with my roommate? And how do I choose a roommate? And what does that kind of interaction look like? So I'm curious to know what have the colleges communicated with you about kind of your living situation for next year? And Anissa, if you could give us some insight into your roommate situation, and how that's worked out for you, and maybe also like friends, like if you've heard anything or anecdotal information about just how to live successfully with a roommate, cohabitate with a roommate. Tips, that would be great.
Yeah, so for next semester, USD is planning to do everything in person. So because of that, this past year, they got rid of the 2-year housing requirement. So nobody had to live on campus who didn't want to. But for next year, they've actually reinstated it. So they are guaranteeing housing for first and second year students on campus. And so like I said, I'm in second year housing right now. So this wouldn't normally be a first year experience, but I'm living in a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment, like, USD provided apartment with my one roommate. And we got randomly assigned our roommates and randomly assigned living situations because everything was so fluid for a long time. And I will tell you guys that at the beginning, I was so nervous to meet my roommate. We met each other for the first time when we got here, and neither of us really knew, like, how do we interact with this person? We're living in the same space, we share a common area, but we don't know anything about each other. And so for the first 2 days, we actually didn't talk at all, and it was really awkward. But then on the third day, I actually decided to text her when I was just out, and I was like, hey, do you want to get dinner tonight? Just kind of break the ice. We're going to be living together. Like, let's figure out a shopping list and like stuff that we should get for the apartment and things that we want to have. And that kind of just opening the door for conversation was the best thing that we could have done for our relationship, because we were able to be like very transparent with one another with our like ideal living situations and come up with like the ways that we're going to make both of us happy where we were living. And I think that one of the biggest things is setting boundaries with your roommate, even when it's uncomfortable, because it's definitely uncomfortable sometimes to explain like, no, I don't like this, or like, I would prefer that we did something else. But like, both of you and your roommate or roommates are all going to be in the same position of not really knowing how to interact with one another. So starting off by just being honest, and, if you go to bed at 8 p.m. and you don't want to tell them, just tell them that you go to bed at 8, because it's better that you're honest than you're up until 1 o'clock in the morning because your roommates think that everything's fine. So definitely, like, I got really, really lucky because my roommate and she has become my best friend on campus. And not to say that, like, if you don't get along so well with your roommates and you won't make a best friend, but in my situation, like, we honestly spend more time in the common area than we do in our own rooms. And we made like a home for ourselves here. And, and I definitely think that it was the honesty that we shared with each other at the very beginning, so that there were no secrets or surprises like later on.
Beautiful. Yay. Thank you. Elle, what's happening with next year? What's the plan?
So for me, next year, they're doing everything in person. It's very similar to Anissa's. They did take away the 2-year requirement to live on campus, but as far as I know, they simply made it so this year you automatically got 1 year of the requirement, even if you weren't on campus or not. But for next year, I am living in the honors housing. It's just like a house that the campus provides, because there's like a ton of like residential houses that the university owns and that they lease out and rent out to students. So I'll be living there with a girl that I met through my Spanish class and connected with her. So we decided to room together, and then we'll be with, I believe, 6 other people in the house. So that's pretty much the plans that they have for next year. They're pretty much just opening everything up and making it normal, I guess, as normal can be.
Exactly. Claire?
So Michigan has also said that they're planning on all in-person classes and opening up campus fully, hopefully. So I think usually it's just freshmen that live in the dorms. So I will not be living in the dorms next year, but I think that freshmen will be able to. All the dorms should be open, I think.
And will you be living in a sorority house, or do they not allow that at Michigan? I can't remember.
Yes, I'm actually required to live in the sorority house. It kind of depends on which sorority you're in, but most people, if you're in Greek life, live in the sorority houses.
And can you talk a little bit about pledging and what that whole process is? How did you decide which sorority you wanted to pledge, and kind of why you decided to do that?
Yeah, definitely. I think I had always kind of thought about joining a sorority just as a way to make friends and like find a community. And this year, with everything online, it kind of encouraged me more just because it was harder. And so I wanted to find a group of girls that I could become friends with. And so our whole rush process was online. It was definitely a very draining process. I think I sat on Zoom for like, I don't know, like 48 hours straight. It was a lot of talking to like girls really fast. Like I think we would have like 4 minutes talking to each girl and it would just keep rotating. So it was a crazy experience, but I think the biggest thing was just having an open mind. I went in not really knowing what to expect and not having any like preconceived judgments about any of the houses. And so I just, by talking to every girl from like not every girl, but like girls from every house, I found which one I kind of clicked with most. And it's like, I think just about fit and who you get along with most. And so I got my like house that I wanted. So it worked out well. And I think it usually works out the way it's meant to be.
True words in more ways than one. Let's talk about parents. Let's talk about the dynamic between you and your parents, and how that's changed, maybe how your relationship has changed, but also, like saying goodbye, and how did your parents kind of deal with you going away for college? How are they adapting to the transition that you're experiencing right now? So how's your relationship changed, and what was that kind of process like for your parents, saying goodbye or welcoming, embracing? Perhaps they were just like, great, go, please, be on your own. So what is all that like with your parents?
My parents were definitely a lot like the second one. They were like, I think I had been home for so long and I was so excited to go that they were excited for me that USD was giving us the opportunity to live on campus. So there were no tears shed when they left or when they were leaving. But then, I think that the first night on campus, when I was like, okay, I'm not like staying in the house with my parents, that's kind of hard. And so I was a little sad, but like, once I was here for like a couple days, I realized that I can FaceTime my parents whenever I want to. I can call them whenever I want to. And a hard thing for me was I have 3 little sisters. And so the one closest in age to me is 16, and like we're really close. And we kind of had a hard time because we'd always been together, and she's obviously still in Vegas, and I was like exploring and figuring out this new life from like me, and I wasn't prioritizing like keeping in touch with my family and calling my sister and like making sure that she knew that I was still there even though I was at school. But like once we talked about it, like we came to an agreement that once a week is, you know, a good amount, and talking to my family once a week. And my two youngest sisters, they're 1 and 3 years old, so they are not super concerned. I don't really think they understand very much of what's going on, but and I think that my relationship with my parents has honestly gotten better because we just have like a mutual respect for each other. And like I went and I met my family for spring break for a couple of days, and then I went back to school to spend the rest of spring break with my friends who were staying on campus. And during that time, my mom and we went and got like, you know, mother-daughter dinners, and mother-daughter, like, you know, went out together and stuff like that. So a lot of my time with my parents since I've been in college has just been like only bonding and like only positive experiences, because they're not like on my back about schoolwork and stuff. Obviously, you know, you have to take care of schoolwork, and I've shown my parents that I can do it without them on my back. So that helps. But I think, you know, everybody just wants to make sure we know we all still care about each other.
Thank you. Yeah, and I think that establishing a routine of checking in once a week is a brilliant idea. I still do that. So that really maintains a really nice relationship and balance. So great. Thank you. Elle, what about you and your parents?
I have yet to leave the house, so my parents are definitely very excited for me to actually be on campus in the fall. In the beginning, they definitely were. My mom was like crying all the time because she knew I was going to be leaving and things like that. But now they're like ready for me to go, because I definitely feel like it's hard because your parents realize that you're at this point where you are an adult legally and everything, and you're going off on your own. So being home has made it kind of difficult, just because they also don't know my schedule. So sometimes they'll come in on classes and they don't see me like going to school every day like they normally would. So it makes the dynamic sometimes a little difficult, but at the same time, like I definitely have learned to cherish the time that I have here with my parents, just because I know once I am off, I will be off and in college and doing my own thing. So I really have just tried to focus on spending time with them and enjoying my time with them throughout it all.
Claire?
I would say for me, I was like terrified to go to school, like very, very scared. I think my parents were sad that I was leaving, but they were also really excited for me. So I actually cried and they didn't cry. So it's kind of like opposite. I was excited, just really scared. I also I dropped off my twin brother, first he's at Boulder, Colorado. So that was also like kind of weird because we're twins, so we're super close, and like just not being together every day was kind of a transition at first. But I'm really close with like my family, so I call my brother and my parents every day, and I like still talk to them a lot. So I don't think like my relationship with them has really changed at all. I still like tell them everything and talk to them a lot. And I think that even though it's weird because they kind of lost two kids at once, they're happy for us that we're on our own and like being independent now and like getting to live our own lives.
And just one final question. Any words of wisdom or advice for our seniors as they make plans for their college future at all? I mean, anything in particular that you want to impart about the journey ahead of them?
I would say like make the decision for yourself, not basing it off of rankings and numbers, but honestly what you think is going to make you happy, because your academics and your education is going to be what you make of it. You can take the easiest classes at the best school and you won't get the same education as somebody who took the hardest classes at a school that's maybe ranked a little bit lower. And just knowing that everything is going to like working out the way that it's supposed to. There's going to be times where you're confused and times where you feel like, man, I didn't make the right choice, or wow, I should have done this differently. But like just stay the course and it'll all work out.
Beautiful. Thank you.
I agree completely with everything Anissa said. I mean, I definitely was in such a slump during the entire college admission process and felt like, oh, like it's over. I don't know like what I'm going to do. But once you are like in college and doing your work and getting in classes, getting involved in everything that you thought was important in high school or everything that you were so consumed about and worried about is not at all going to matter. And I know it definitely is hard to hear like when you're in that mindset, but once you've like switched places and are actually doing like the college life and being on campus and everything, you're definitely gonna like have a complete change of mindset and like realize that like you are where you're meant to be. And so yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree with both Anissa and Elle. Definitely good words of wisdom. I would also say just keep an open mind, because even though things may not like, you may not think that they're like it's going how you expected it to, it'll like usually work its way out, or like usually things will happen the way it's meant to be. Like I didn't expect to be at Michigan and now I can't see myself anywhere else. So I think having an open mind is super important, and just it is really, college is what you make it. So getting involved and just trying to meet people, I think is the best way to really make the most.
Thank you. Thank you, all three of you, so much for your eloquent words. And we're so impressed with just how accomplished you are, your growth, how you're taking advantage of college. And we can't wait to hear more about you and your experiences. And we would love to keep in touch, of course. We're going to transition to more of our formal presentation at this point, but I just want to say thank you so much. I know you're very busy, and we so appreciate you taking the time to be with us and to share with our seniors and your peers your experiences and your insight.
Yes, thank you very much.
You're welcome to stick around, or if you want to contribute at all. Otherwise, I know that you have a lot on your plate. So whatever you would like to do. Okay. All right. Let's move on to finishing strong.
Okay, what a tough act to follow. Wow, I was so impressed, as Ms. Lustig said. We'll follow their futures with great interest, that's for sure. Finishing strong as far as the senior year is concerned. Some of this involves just some housekeeping tasks, but some of it just some advice. So we'll run through this fairly quickly. Provided you've indicated in Naviance where you're going to college, Ms. Hines will automatically send your transcript in June to that college. And final grades do matter. I know we're into the fourth quarter, but colleges are looking to make sure that your work is consistent with the work that you presented when you were admitted to the college. So keep your grades up, send your AP scores, and take them seriously. Do the best you can, because they can really translate into a lower tuition. So very, very important that you do that. Let's see. Be safe, of course. We hope that for all of you. Take advantage of school events in the final weeks. We've got several things coming up. We're so happy that we're going to be able to do them. So take advantage of them and take time for your friends and your family. I think that was stressed already. And notify those colleges that you're not going to attend. Just send them a short email if they don't have a form, and let them know that you're declining their enrollment. You decided to go to another school, but just thank them for their offer of admission. And obviously you'll want to pay a deposit to the college that you do plan to attend. Just follow their directions. Typically it's May 1st, which is the candidate's reply date agreement. Many colleges are allowing you to have until May 3rd this year. And we'll be having a senior photo with your attire, college attire, on April 23rd during advisory. So we hope all of you will be there and Zoom in, and we'll have a picture of everyone. So those are just some words of wisdom about finishing the year strong. I think now we'll talk about some of the things to do over the summer.
Checking email. This is how colleges are communicating with you through email. And we realize that you're probably being bombarded with email at this point, but it's really important to pay attention to any notifications or announcements, reminders that your colleges are giving you. Log into your student portal, your admitted student portal, because there may be some forms that you need to fill out. Certainly an enrollment form, how to deposit, the formal process of depositing and paying your deposit fee. And then as the summer progresses, you'll receive even more information from the college about signing up for orientation, signing up for classes, meeting with your academic advisor, satisfying a core curriculum and required classes for your freshman year, filling out residential forms, filling out health insurance forms. And there's usually, timeframes associated with that information as well. Accepting any financial aid awards that are given to you, and possibly going through some financial aid training about taking on loans. So you just want to make sure that you're really staying on top of your email. It's easy to overlook everything, some details. So just stay organized. And keep track of all the information and make sure that you're communicating all of this with your parents and vice versa as well. If you're looking for ways, one of the great ways to start meeting new people and to make connections, possibly even with potential roommates, is joining social media, whether it's an Instagram page, Twitter, Facebook. Usually there's an admitted student Facebook page or groups that you can join and follow and participate in to talk about your excitement and introduce yourself and talk about when you'll be on campus and what your big questions are. So that's a great way to start really developing relationships and integrating with the community. Taking college placement exams for some students, like especially in specific areas of study. Colleges want to know what level of math to place you in, what level of foreign language is appropriate for you. So there may be placement exams that you'll take during orientation, or perhaps before you register for classes. They might be online. So find out if there are college placement exams, when you need to take them, and what that process looks like. I always recommend looking at the course catalog and seeing the variety of different classes, and be bold, be adventurous. College is a time to explore. So often it happens that students enter with an idea of what they want to major in, and then they take a class, whether it's in sociology or philosophy or environmental studies, and suddenly they're challenged to think, wow, maybe I might want to double major in something else, or start questioning what they are interested in. So there's also a great website called, I think it's great, at least. I don't know that professors do, but it's called ratemyprofessors.com. And this is where students can give feedback about the quality of the teaching, at every institution is on there. So they go through every class, quality of the teaching, ease of grading, ability to communicate, passion for the subject, et cetera. So I think it's great to choose to, again, make an informed decision about what classes you're looking at, and choose wisely. Get advice from upperclassmen. Who are the teachers that you should take before you graduate, and make sure to get in on those teachers early. Understanding your graduation requirements, meeting with your advisor to talk about that trajectory, especially if you want to plan for studying abroad. Perhaps most often that happens your junior year. It's really important to have a plan. And there are some majors where it's a very, I would call, prescribed curriculum. Engineering, for example, you might not be able to go abroad, or it might be more challenging to. If you're pre-med, can you go abroad, and how do you plan for that? So really taking, just like in high school when you're a freshman, I think planning that 4 years, or at least having an idea in mind, to plan accordingly while still keeping your options open is a really great idea. Be careful of that first year also when you're choosing your classes. I would say, have a balanced curriculum. Don't take like three lab classes or 4 lab classes, or don't take necessarily reading and writing intensive classes, right? You really want to, I think, create more of a broad-based curriculum for yourself that first year. Practicing life skills. Now is the time to do your own laundry if you haven't done it before. Cleaning your bathroom. Maintaining your vehicle, checking your oil, cooking, grocery shopping, maintaining a budget. All of these adulting skills, I think, that will very quickly become relevant and important, especially, students that if you're living in an apartment, your sophomore year becomes really important. So life skills, now is the time to practice them.
My panelists talked a lot about orientation, moving in, and roommates. So I think that's a lot of this is covered. They were excellent in their presentation on these issues, but just a couple of things I would like to point out. As I think they mentioned, some schools let you choose your roommate, others just assign them at random. And regardless, if you don't choose your roommate, they will give you a questionnaire to fill out, and it's very, very important that you be honest and as upfront as possible. I think Anissa mentioned the time. So if you go to bed at 8 o'clock, you certainly don't want someone who's up at 2. So do your best job on that questionnaire. Communicate with your roommate about who's going to bring what. You can do that in advance if you get the opportunity. If the college sends a packing checklist, review it, and don't wait until the last minute to pack. It could be very, very difficult. Students and parents should attend the orientation sessions on campus. They usually have one for parents, one for students, and the students also usually have an opportunity to meet with their faculty advisor, which is highly recommended. And it's going to be an emotional roller coaster, as you could see from our panelists. All kinds of emotions floating around when you go off to college. But as you can see, things, as they pointed out, things work out. And that's always the nice thing about it. And as they mentioned, have a plan for goodbyes and future communication. That helps a lot particularly with homesickness. So just a few things to think about.
Just to add a few things to everything that Mr. Hallman and Michael just mentioned. Regarding orientation, at some schools, and again, this really varies from school to school. At some schools, there are multiple orientation dates. and timeframes during the summer, and other schools, there's one specific time of orientation. So know kind of what the orientation schedule looks like. And again, at some schools, orientations fill up at a certain time very quickly, and are limited to a certain number of students, especially if they're doing several throughout the summer. And housing can fill up very quickly, depending upon the school. So, if you've already deposited at your institution, you know where you're going. I think it's important to sign up early for orientation, and plan accordingly for that. With regard to packing, some students and parents, they'll take the essentials from their home, and then just buy what they need when they get there, depending upon what's already in the room, what's provided nearby, as opposed to trying to ship everything, right? Just making the most of your time during orientation and getting what you need when you're there actually on campus. And one suggestion that I've read in terms of the saying goodbye is, and I thought this is a really sentimental, beautiful touch, was I read about how some parents will write a little handwritten note to their student, and would give it to them right before they leave, right on that day, because just as parents are going through this kind of perhaps like this shock and kind of just dismay of the separation, students are as well. This big fear and anxiety of being on your own and being in a new environment and doing something completely, being outside your comfort zone. And so I think reiterating how proud you are of your student, the confidence that you have in them and their ability to succeed, how excited you are for them, and that you believe in them, that you love them, that that you are just wishing them the very best, that you're there for them if they need you. But just those final words of advice, and also just that boost of love, support, and confidence can be very moving. And sometimes I've read that some parents will give it, hand it off when they're leaving. Others will leave it on their bed, the student's bed, or tuck it into their backpack or something like that. But it adds a really special touch, I think, and a memory to that makes an impression on the student. Finances, budgeting, financial aid. So at most colleges, at least as far as I know, they will not allow you to register for classes until you pay your bill, until you decide, you actually accept the financial aid package, or if you're not on financial aid, that you go into your student account and you pay the tuition and room and board and whatever those fees are. So make sure that if you are on financial aid, review it. You don't necessarily have to accept all of the loans, for example, that they give you. You could accept what you need and then decline others. You could accept work study or not if you've been offered it. Discuss a payment plan, and if you'd like to come in and discuss your financial aid package with us, we're happy to do that as well. Remember also that your FAFSA and the profile needs to be filed. If the college requires the profile, typically that's for private institutions, the FAFSA needs to be filed every year in order for you to qualify again for financial aid. So just keep that in mind and those deadlines in mind. I do think that it's important to discuss finances with your student, how much spending money they're going to have, what their skin in the game looks like, and what the expectations are for them in terms of paying or working or taking on loans. What happens if your student needs money in an emergency? Costs it adds up. Living expenses add up: clothing, food, laundry, transportation, activities, etc. So just kind of have that in mind, that you might want and need access to your student's bank account on campus, so that way you can transfer funds to them in an emergency, just in case. Establish a bank account where your student will be studying. I think, find out what bank operates on campus, where the ATM should be. There should be an ATM in the student center that's easily accessible. So you want to make sure that your student is able to, take out money and deposit money, et cetera, easy access to finances. Keep their ATM card and checkbook in a safe place, and don't fall prey to credit card vultures and companies that will woo your student to open new credit cards and start racking up credit card debt very quickly your freshman year. So just make sure that, that they are fiscally responsible. Millennium scholarships. For those students who plan to attend UNLV or UNR, just wanted to let you know that there's no specific forms that you need to complete as a student, as a parent. The way it works is in July, Ms. Hines will send final transcripts to the Nevada Treasurer's office, and basically they handle the award of and the distribution of the Millennium Scholarship. It is essentially the bursar's office at your institution would then credit your account, your student's account, with the scholarship award if they meet the eligibility requirements of the Millennium Scholarship. So, if you have questions about that, please, feel free to let us know, but we will take care of all the details over the summer. And again, that those funds are immediately distributed to you through the college. Let's see, for students moving off campus, make sure that you talk about all the financial considerations and kind of the quirks of having roommates, signing rental agreements, and what those commitments look like if you're planning on entering into a contract with other students and sharing an apartment, because those leases can be very rigid and very strict, and make sure that you are establishing the financial arrangements with roommates if you're planning on living off campus, and those expectations as well. HIPAA and FERPA. So this is really important for parents to know, which is that make sure to empower them, just as Anissa mentioned, right? When you're an adult, there may be times when you need to seek out, as a student, you might need to seek out the health services on campus or the hospital if you need, and just make sure that your student knows and has documentation of all their medications, their medical histories, so they can advocate for themselves. If they need medications refilled, discuss how that's going to happen. And, insurance, read over all of the insurance forms and documentation when you receive that from the college. I know for me personally, I signed up for the health insurance that the college offered because I wanted to make sure that I could go to their health services on campus. Some students will choose to stay under their parents' health insurance, but again, you want to make sure that that you're still going to be able to get coverage if you need that access to medical care when you're in college. I think it is typically more convenient to opt into their health insurance provided by the college. But feel free to ask those questions, especially during orientation. Understand also, so HIPAA and FERPA, what are they? So if you've never had a student go to college before, basically it means that college students are considered adults and will determine that who can receive confidential information about them, about their academic, health, and financial records So under law, the students need to agree and sign a release that otherwise the college will not share any information about the student's academic health or financial records with the parents. Once they turn 18, the child is legally a stranger to you. You as the parent have no right to obtain medical information on your legal age son or daughter. And so, talk about the HIPAA forms and the FERPA forms. One of the handouts that we can provide access to is about getting your legal house in order before your student goes to college. And if you want, we're happy to share those handouts with you, but I think it's a really great article to read. Colleges expect to have the relationship with the student. They're going to communicate with your student about their grades, discipline, and health issues. So really important to talk about those agreements and signing those forms with your student before they leave. I think this is you, Michael, right?
Sorry. Go ahead.
Michael?
Yes.
I think this one is you, right?
Okay, yes. Course registration and course placement. Always get the syllabus before you purchase your books and make sure you're buying the correct edition. Then hunt for deals, secondhand books, used books. Register for classes, consider the benefits of completing graduation requirements early. As I think most students know, the first couple of years you can fulfill your general education requirements and be familiar with their add drop period. If you're trying to get into a class and it's full, you might try emailing the professor and to tell him or her that you're interested in the class and why. That may get you off the wait list. Meet with your advisors early on, particularly if you're in a pre-professional track, and understand the differences between the learning environment of high school and that of college. And I like this quote: high school is a teaching environment, college is a learning environment, unquote. Seek out your teacher during office hours. Use any number of resources the college has, academic resource centers, tutoring services, writing labs, etc. They're there for your benefit, and certainly don't hesitate to take advantage of those. And I think Ms. Lustig has already talked about knowing your strengths and weaknesses and not taking multiple lab courses or heavy reading and writing courses, particularly your freshman year, because you want to be successful and you don't want to overload yourself. And of course, go to class because you're paying a lot for your education, and that really makes obviously a very, very big difference.
Go to class.
Extracurricular life. Okay. The panelists covered a lot about extracurricular life, health, safety, and social life. I think it is a wonderful idea to attend the clubs fair that just about every college has at the beginning of the year, and join one or two activities that interest you, because you're going to meet a lot of people through those, as well as experience professional growth, and try some new activities, but just be sure that you don't overcommit. And branch out beyond your roommates, reach out to other students and develop friendships and connections, and just don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Avoid the temptation to come home until Thanksgiving, but still make time, to connect with parents. Parents, just be supportive. That's the best advice I think anyone could give you. and seek out mental health resources as needed. Know that you're not alone, particularly the freshman year. Again, those services are there for you to take advantage of. And then just use some street smarts, common sense. For example, don't walk home alone at night, lock your doors, etc. Some of those things, which are basically common sense, as I mentioned.
All right, so the emotional roller coaster and the top 10 concerns and fears, anxieties, and how to deal with them for both students and parents. For students, I think the number one biggest fear is, did I choose the right school? And what happens if I'm not at the right school? But I always joke, never ask a first semester freshman about their experience, because they're racked with this anxiety and the homesickness, and they're feeling a little overwhelmed. And then once, after Thanksgiving, after winter break, they really start settling into their groove. And especially if they are involved in some organizations, and they're really, connecting with the community there. And so much of college is what you make of it, as our students mentioned. And I think having the right attitude of going in and making the best, and taking advantage of the opportunities presented to you, and diving into the experience and keeping an open mind, I think, is what it's all about. The anxiety about roommates. Believe it or not, I think that in my experience with students over the past 20 years, has suggested that having not choosing your own roommate that freshman year actually works out better than choosing a friend to room with, or someone that you know already. That freshman year, rooming with a high school friend or someone that you already have established a connection with. I think that in my experience, it's remarkable how well the college does in pairing students up with others who are compatible, especially if you fill out that roommate questionnaire very honestly and openly. But realizing that you're going to be living with someone who may have very different lifestyles than yourself, and college is all about change and growth and adapting. So view it as an opportunity to learn and evolve. And again, just having those open and honest communications, setting boundaries, being clear about how you like to live, and happy for each of you to be happy when you're sharing that space. Parents letting go, trusting you, that I think is a huge one. And just students realize that your parents might be having a hard time letting go, or they might want to hear from you a little bit more than you expect, or might even wish, but just know that it's a transition and they're adapting. Please give them a little bit of slack, especially in those first few months as your relationship evolves with them. Choosing a major, not meeting the school's academic standards. You've heard from our seniors, the Meadows has prepared you extraordinarily well for the college experience, and handling the rigorous academics in college and being successful. So have confidence in yourself. Use the time management skills that you learned here, and just realize that you're there to learn, and go to class, do the best you can, and take advantage of the educational opportunities you've been gifted. Parents, I know parents are always very concerned about, is my child going to be safe? Are they making the right decisions, safe decisions, and making sure that they're not putting themselves at risk? They're learning to be adults. They're learning to adult, and yeah, there may be bumps in the road, but that is how they grow and learn. And I think that just ensuring that your students are using common sense and taking, being using the resources available to them, whether it's academic resources or campus safety, and making sure that they're keeping a head on their shoulders. You have you have developed students, you have shaped your students to be independent, critical thinkers, and to be able to thrive on their own. And this is the time for them to really kind of spread their wings and make that happen. And they're going to grow in the process. So just realize that there are opportunity. The freshman year experience is a time of making mistakes, but also learning from them and growing from them. So these quotes I especially love. Your child is most likely experiencing a new sense of freedom and autonomy. College will be a time of intellectual growth, personal and career exploration, and social adaptation. Please encourage and accept your child's ability to make independent decisions, learn self-advocacy skills, accept that making mistakes will be made along the way, and that's part of life. Learning from mistakes is an integral part of your growth. Your role will certainly change and evolve as your child continues along the path to independent adulthood. And one of the great joys of parenting is observing your child on this journey and continuing to act as a trusted mentor and guide, letting them come up with solutions to challenges, not telling them how to solve problems, but offering them suggestions and maybe encouraging them to knowing that they have encouraging them to find solutions and to seek out resources on campus to navigate those challenges in a way that they'll grow from. And for students, you've been the focal point of your parents' world for the past 18 years. Be kind to your parents. Right now, I know that senioritis is hitting pretty hard. Students might be getting a little bit, impatient. They're ready for college. They're ready to be done with high school. But this is a sentimental time for your parents, for your entire family, for your siblings. They're saying goodbye. They're going to be embracing a new way of life when you're gone. And you know what? If they want to give you one last hug, if they, want to say one last goodbye, just let them. Be patient with them, be understanding that this is a big deal and a big change. And they love you, they are there to support you, and they'll miss you. So. Reminder, actually, that we're going to do a college wear day Zoom photo on Friday, April 23rd during advisory. Due to, again, social distancing, we're just going to have all of our students wear their, even if the student hasn't declared or hasn't decided, we want to do this before AP exams hit in May, and this was the most convenient time with our scheduling. So if you don't have college wear, come see us, and we're happy to help make arrangements for you. But it's a great time to celebrate our students and their future possibilities. So, finally, some books that we recommend reading and checking out. We have them here. I have them here in my office. If you want to borrow them, I'm sure you can order them on Amazon as well. The Naked Roommate and all the quirks of dealing with and college life. So from academics to roommates to finances. These are all great books about how to succeed in college, and for both students as well as parents. And then handouts. Again, if you want a copy of this presentation, we'll make sure that there are links. You'll be able to click on the links to the handouts, getting your legal house in order before your child leaves, 21 ways to save time and money, what college move-in day is like and what that's all about, how to survive and thrive your freshman year, financial tips for college students to save money, life skills they need before college, and money mistakes. So let us know if you want a copy of this, and we're happy to send it to you. At this point, we're happy to address any questions. There haven't been any questions in the question and answer so far, which hopefully means we've answered all your questions and it's been very comprehensive. But if you do have questions, we're happy to answer and chat further. Otherwise, we just want to say thank you very much for joining us today, and we'll hang around for a little bit, see if there are any other questions. But otherwise, thank you so much for joining us for our final senior and parent presentation.
Yes, thank you very much.